Welcome to Human School. I'm Dr. Patil Armenian, and each episode I'll share some of my personal stories, interview inspiring people, and offer tools to help you with the mission of being a human on Earth. Hi, everyone. I took a long break from the podcast and actually wasn't sure if I was going to come back, but I'm back. If you're new, welcome. And if you're not new, thank you for sticking with me and coming back to listen. It's been over 9 months since the last episode, and while on the surface everything seems kind of the same, a lot has actually happened. But firstly, most importantly, I have to give a shout out to my two amazing dear cousins, Hera and Karni, who each had a baby girl recently. I'm so excited to be an aunt twice over. And I also feel like it's really meaningful to return during April, which is Armenian Heritage Month, as the granddaughter and great granddaughter of survivors of the Armenian genocide. We need to get our voices out and keep our opinions heard. Where to begin? The thing is, I have a lot of jobs and a family and friends, which unfortunately often go at the bottom of the priority list, but I'm trying my best here. And when I say a lot of jobs, I'm not exaggerating. I'm a full time emergency physician in a teaching hospital. I'm also a full time toxicologist on call multiple days a month for my hospital. That means I can get called at any time of day or night to assist with patients of any age that have a possible problem with an overdose, medication related problem, envenomation, so that's like snake bites, chemical exposure, basically any issue that can result from some exogenous compound entering the body. I also do multiple other things on the side, like expert witness work for legal cases, participating in various hospital committees, toxicology teaching rounds at the hospital, working on research projects, teaching about my toxicology niche, which is psychedelics, and more. I actually don't remember all the things I do right now, and it's definitely ramped up in the last 9 months. And on top of it, just coming back, I am a mom, a wife, a daughter, sister, cousin, aunt, friend, all the things. But it's time to get my thoughts out again. So here we are. For all the talking I do about managing time and managing schedules, I haven't been listening to my own advice lately. Let me tell you, I hadn't had a lot of 0 days until I recently forced myself to take 10 days off for a real vacation. And it was really great. Now I'm back. And just to remind you guys, 0 day is my concept of just having days on your calendar where you don't have anything scheduled and definitely nothing work related. And if you do have something scheduled, it's just something you want to do, like go to a yoga class or something. We'll be talking more about 0 days later this season. But yeah, I'm back. And up to this point in the last 9 months and even longer, I've been feeling a compulsion to get things done, get them out of the way so that I can do other new things. I've been cleaning house, if you will. What am I cleaning house for? I don't really know yet, but part of it is to have the space to let new ideas in. I finally feel like I'm at a place for new ideas with this podcast and with other projects I have cooking. More to come on those later. But I had to do some housekeeping with the podcast first. I looked back at the episodes I've done so far to see if they still make sense, if it all still aligns. Some things do and others don't. I don't know about you, but for me, I seem to always learn things the hard way. What is that about? I feel like I learn everything the hard way. I need to go through something, sometimes more than once, before I learn the lesson. And this is part of what being human is all about. And speaking of being human, I never really liked the old podcast art. I quickly made it using a first gen AI program and used a really cold looking font. And although AI can be a useful tool, AI art is the opposite of what should be used when trying to sort out and describe the human experience. I'm a very visual person, and I couldn't even start to think about new episodes until I had podcast art that represented me better. So I got my awesome graphic designer husband, Isaac, to make a new design by hand with a font that feels a lot more organic. You'll be hearing from him soon, I hope. But shout out to Isaac for the new art. He's so talented. Back to the podcast itself. This has become a bit of a journal of sorts, where I go through what is on my mind at any given time. Looking back, it was clear that for a long time, I was looking for someone to guide me, the perfect mentor, to tell me what to do, what I'm supposed to be doing, and keep me on the right track, or get me on a new track. And those mentors have been so important to me. And I still need guidance and mentorship. But the hard reality is that there is no one person that will answer all of your questions, not even yourself. It turns out you alone are not enough. And there's also no one other person that can be your guru, let's say. But if I had to pick between my thoughts and someone else's, I'm going to bet on myself each time, despite my mistakes. I mean, the key is to learn from your mistakes. Humans exist in community and are innately tribal beings. So, what you have is many mentors you, your family, friends, colleagues, people you don't even know that you look up to. What is key is to have the discernment to learn what's important, what's crucial for your survival, your growth, contributing and learning what you need in this life from the right people. But not one person, no gurus here. When I look back at the episodes I've recorded so far, I love that I've had the opportunity to interview some of my dearest mentors and talk about those that have passed that I couldn't interview. I've learned so much from each of them and desperately wanted one of them to be the one. I wanted someone from my family to be the one. We are all so different though, and that's the thing. There is no one person. You take bits and pieces from everyone around you. Just take the right bits and pieces, not the wrong ones. I also look back and think about what I've learned about myself, about my work, and how far I've come. I could be embarrassed by some of the people and tools I've mentioned in the past, but I'll discuss them now instead in the spirit of transparency and maintaining high ethical standards. And really, because I'm learning new things every day. Again, human school. In many ways, we're living in a different world now than when I started this podcast 3 years ago. Perhaps the world itself is not so different, but a lot of old secrets are coming out into the light, the dirty laundry is being aired, and my tolerance for others' poor behavior has greatly diminished. So I'm going to talk about some difficult news topics next. This is your trigger warning / kids in the car listening warning to stop playing the episode now, especially if you don't want to hear about things like sexual misconduct. Okay, I know, heavy topic here. Let me lay the groundwork. In the very first episode, I talk about how years ago, Deepak Chopra had initially been invited by ACEP, the American College of Emergency Physicians, to give a keynote at our annual meeting. And ACEP is the biggest group of emergency physicians in the US. There's a lot of other organizations as well, but this is, in my opinion at least, kind of the biggest premier one. So this annual meeting was at peak COVID pandemic times. And then right before, they rescinded his invitation. And I was pissed. I was incensed. Why would they do that? Did they not care about our wellness as emergency physicians? He was just talking about yoga and meditation. What's wrong with that? To be perfectly honest, there's nothing wrong with yoga and meditation if those things help you to calm your nervous system, get exercise, and cope with your daily life. They definitely help me a lot. These last 2.5 years, I've been doing yoga very regularly for the first time in my life, and it's made a huge impact on my mental health, as well as just my physical strength. But guess what? It matters who the message is coming from. Deepak Chopra was not the right person, and let me tell you why. And now I'm happy that ACEP canceled him. Now, this isn't just about his presence thousands of times in the Epstein files. We'll talk about that too, and his comments degrading women. My issues with Deepak Chopra started before these revelations. About the time I started this podcast 3 years ago, I began to follow him on Instagram. Initially, his posts just seemed nice, offering calming platitudes, nothing special, nothing I felt too strongly about one way or the other. A bit devoid of humanity, actually, but pleasant. I hit that unfollow button when he began to fully embrace AI. He was talking about using AI for spiritual enlightenment and using it to elevate consciousness. And I personally am just not going to get on board with that. I was already gone when he launched his own AI bot, Deepak Chopra AI. And it's like, you've got to be kidding me. I feel the same way about AI therapists, AI psychedelic guides, any of these things where you're getting into the very thoughts and emotions that define what humans are. And yes, there are AI psychedelic guides out there now. I know, it's crazy. Chopra's work was just seeming so detached from reality to me and actually detached from humanity and care. So then it's not surprising at all that he was all over the Epstein files over 3,000 times. There's some great people covering that aspect of Deepak Chopra and other wellness spiritual leaders. And I recommend reading Lisa Rankin and Scott Mills on Substack, which I'll reference in the show notes. It's okay to take certain ideas from people, but don't fall for anyone that is too much of a guru. And then if you find out they're cavorting with a convicted sex offender and his, quote, girls, then run in the other direction and speak up. Don't stay silent about any of this. There's a lot going on in the world right now, and I don't know how to solve any of it. But I know what doesn't solve it, and that is to be quiet, to be complicit with the exploitation of any humans. When big things happen in the world and the famous people stay silent, what about the rest of us? What about us normal people? Example, Oprah. Oprah Winfrey is a billionaire. She has power, and yet she's never commented on any of the people who she has championed who later show themselves to be terrible people. I'm looking at Deepak Chopra, Dr. Phil, Dr. Oz, John of God. I don't know if you've heard of this John of God character, but John of God is a self proclaimed healer that she championed, and he was later proven to be a sex offender, convicted of rape as well as other forms of assault, and sentenced to over 370 years in prison. Oprah has yet to say anything about this. Why have all that power and money if you can't use it for good, can't use it to call out people that are hurting others? It doesn't leave a lot of hope for us normal people. Women and girls, and even some men, were seriously abused and even killed in the Epstein ring. And yet, that whole time, people weren't listening to them if they actually spoke up, which often they didn't. The pattern is there in so many different scenarios affecting all parts of society, all religions, all political leanings. I'm not an Epstein expert, but what I can tell is that it is not a Democrat versus Republican issue. They're both implicated. It's a power issue, those in power versus those not in power. So here's another example. Let's pivot to the farm workers movement that started in the 1960s and continues on to this day. This topic specifically is so near and dear to me because I've lived in Fresno, California for over 20 years. Central California is the home of agriculture for our entire nation and has a huge farm worker population that I take care of on a daily basis in my hospital. In March last month, the New York Times published an investigative piece on Cesar Chavez, exposing his years of sexually abusing girls and women. This is putting it lightly. What shook me to my core was Dolores Huerta's statement on March 18, 2026. This is the Dolores Huerta, the renowned American labor leader and civil rights activist who co-founded the United Farm Workers Union. She started the statement with, I quote, "I am nearly 96 years old, and for the last 60 years have kept a secret because I believe that exposing the truth would hurt the farm worker movement I've spent my entire life fighting for. I've encouraged people to always use their voice. Following the New York Times multi-year investigation into sexual misconduct by Cesar Chavez, I can no longer stay silent and must share my own experiences. She then goes on to say that he sexually assaulted her twice, and each incident led to a pregnancy. Pregnancies which she hid and gave the children up to other families to raise. She was the most powerful woman in the movement, and still this happened. The others had no chance. You know what, though? It is never too late to speak up. Truly better late than never. She is strong, amazing for finally speaking her piece. Like, why is all this so upsetting? Just a continuous barrage of awful information being revealed every day. It continues to be distressing because no one is being properly held accountable in the US, at least not yet at the time of my recording this in April 2026. I'm not here to rant about things I don't know a lot about. There's a lot of great reporting if you want to dig deep on these topics. I myself am not a journalist, just a super fan of investigative journalism. But what I do know about is my own stories. I'll bring it closer to home. For example, if a nurse is sexually assaulted by a doctor in a hospital, what happens? What if that doctor brings in a lot of money to the hospital? What then? What if you're in a different job, let's say a government employee, and your supervisor sexually harasses you? And you tell your other superior, and they simply change your assignment so you don't have to work with him? But years later, you end up working with him anyways due to changes in management. And you never reported it initially because you never thought you'd work with the guy again? What then? What if you're a resident doctor and your supervising doctor sexually harasses you? And you tell another supervising doctor who then goes to the boss and says they'll handle it. You trust the boss and find out later that absolutely nothing was done. And that resident spent the next 3 years avoiding being alone with that attending. These are all true stories. This is all real and it happens all the time. Why should we feel unsafe? These are real women's stories. I didn't make any of these up. Most of them are never reported, never actually investigated, because it is so pervasive. Have we given up? We must not. Years ago, while working in the ER, another doctor grabbed my side, like the full hand side grab. Instinctively, I elbowed him and loudly said, in front of everyone, "Don't ever fucking touch me again." One of my dear friends sometimes remember that incident. She was there and her response was, "I couldn't believe you said that." As in, I didn't know you could say that to a guy in front of people. I mean, there were a lot of people around. I don't know what came over me, and I could see myself also freezing and not reacting at all. That day, though, I reacted, and I'm so happy that I did. It was probably because that person was my peer and not my boss. Power dynamics change everything. And I don't know how I would have reacted if there had been a power differential there. Maybe frozen. I've been really interested in these power differentials lately and how people create power over others. Some of it is overtly culty, and some of it doesn't fit the definition of cult but could come close. It's because I'm always interested in topics that seem to suck people in, like psychedelics, for example. My favorite Instagram account, Healing from Healing, does such a good job of calling out the BS while staying lighthearted and funny about it. And I try so hard to just laugh about things and also be discerning. But sometimes I get sucked in by podcasts or people until I realize their ideas actually don't align with mine. Some of these are the tools I talked about in my burnout episodes, like To Be Magnetic with Lacey Ann Phillips and Melissa Wood Health. Their tools may have been helpful to me for a short period of time, but that's exactly it. Their tools, like specific meditations and journaling exercises in the cases of To Be Magnetic and specific workouts in the case of Melissa Wood Health, were really useful. But the people themselves are just people and don't need to be given that influencer power. No one is perfect, and anyone you raise to any pedestal of perfect influencer, guru, leader, teacher, mentor will let you down, that is, if you're only looking to them and think that they are your model in every way. It's okay. Take what works for you, the pieces that work for you, and leave what doesn't. And don't keep following people. Be discerning with where your energy goes. whether that is in social media, in your work life, home life, community, wherever. Protect your energy. We're conscious human beings that have our own thoughts and our own learning trajectories. We can't be replaced by AI, and we can only be stifled by others for so long. This leads us to my current life theme. Creativity is revolution, or creation is revolution. In Armenian, this is how you say it. Ստեղծագործությունը հեղափոխություն է. Ստեղծագործությունը հեղափոխություն է. These are the words of advice my uncle gave my cousin years ago. We'll be talking more about this on Human School this season. Thank you for listening. I'll be back in 2 weeks. Please like, subscribe, share, and download the podcast. And again, you can find us at Human School Podcast on Instagram. I'd like to thank Dr. Zach Effron for the theme music. And I'd just like to make a general disclaimer that any of the institutions I work for, including Community Regional Medical Center, UCSF Fresno, and American Ambulance, have nothing to do with any of my thoughts or opinions. And so we'll kindly leave them out of this. Thanks, everyone. See you next time.